Okay, good evening everyone and welcome to the European Shiatsu Congress partnered webinar. Thank you very much for coming on the webinar and for registering. We've had over 200 people register and more people are coming on all the time. So what I'm going to do first of all is you should be able to see my screen now celebrating the European Shiatsu Congress webinar. So I'm going to introduce the whole thing for you. And here's the program. This is what's going to happen in the next hour and a half. We've got a little introduction to the whole webinar. That's where we are now. I'm going to explain the webinar system. For those of you who haven't already done a webinar, we'll find out in a minute how many of those there are. Then we're going to find out a little bit more about you, whether you came to the Vienna Congress and if you did, what you came as a presenter. And then each of them, we're going to, each of the presenters, we've got 6 presenters from the European Shiatsu Congress here or spread out all over Europe, and they're going to be linked with webcams and they're going to tell you a little bit about their experiences on the Congress. And then we'll have an open discussion, and then we'll open up for questions and comments from everyone of you that's at home listening to the webinar. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's go straight ahead here. So we should have Shakura should be in the producer. She's our producer. She should be in the next room, and she should be launching this poll now. Let's just find out a little bit about you. Okay, how are we doing? Let's see. We've got 79% voted. Anyone else want to vote? 82%, 83%. Okay, I think that's it. Let's see. Oh, 25%. This is the first webinar. We've got 74% and 2% they're not sure whether they have or not. Okay, great. So let's go through the slides. Let's keep going through the slides. If we've got 25%, I'll just quickly go through how the webinar works. Okay, so you can participate in different ways. In the question session, which is going to happen later, you can type in some questions here, or if you want to talk to us, what you can do is you can actually have audio over the webinar so we can actually hear you, and I'll explain how to do that in a moment. Okay, you'll notice that you're muted by default, so what that means is obviously we can't have 200 people all talking at once, so generally speaking you'll be muted, but we can unmute you. So first of all, if you've got any questions or comment as the webinar goes along, just type them in the question box on your control panel, and then Shakura will pass them to us. Okay, so that's cool. Okay, so let's see what's next. Right, so if you want to actually be heard and you've got a headset and you haven't got lots of background noise like dogs barking and trucks revving up outside your apartment, you could put your hand up and Shakura can unmute you, and then everyone will be able to hear you. So that would be great if you want to do that later on if you want to be heard. Okay. Right. So now we're going to find out a little bit more about you. We've got 3 polls. So what's the first one of those 3 is, did you go to the ESC Vienna? Let's find out how many people did that. Okay, there we are, nearly done. 84% voted, so should we just see what the result was? Oh wow, look at that. Half, more or less half the people were actually there. So you've probably got a lot to share later on when we open up the webinar for you, because this is a place to celebrate the Congress, and thanks ever so much for taking part. That's brilliant. And 51% didn't attend, couldn't attend, so let's hope we can share some of the amazing things that happened at the Congress with you. And we've got a few staff, lecturers and staff there as well, so that's great. Okay, cool, right, good. So now let's see, find out what you are. Let's see whether you're a Shiatsu teacher, a Shiatsu practitioner, or other. Let's see if you can just launch that poll. There we are. Okay. So are you a Shiatsu practitioner and teacher, a Shiatsu practitioner, a Shiatsu student, or other? Let's have a look. Okay, great. There we are. Let's have a look. What have we got? Okay, most of you are Shiatsu practitioners. We've got a pretty high proportion of teachers though, 25%, and 8%, only 8% Shiatsu students. So welcome the students. And we haven't got anyone from outside the Shiatsu world, so we're all Shiatsu people here now. Okay, and let's just find out the last poll. Let's see. Let's find out where you're from. This is always interesting to see where you're from. I guess mostly from Europe, but we'll see. Okay, here we go. Oh my goodness, we've got some people from Australia. As I thought, mostly from Europe, we'd expect that, 92%. Hello to those of you who are in the States, in America, and well done, whoever you are in Australia, for getting up really early, because I think it's about 4 in the morning there. So thank you very much for doing that. That's brilliant. Okay, great. So here we are. That was the introduction. So we're still on time. Let's just see what we've got coming up next. Okay, look, here are all the presenters that we've got lined up for you to meet via this webinar, live on webcam. We've got Gabriela Poli from Italy, Nick Pohl from the UK, Zita Sieber from Switzerland, Nalini Kierenberg from Germany, and we've got a special surprise because we've actually got Alice Wilden right here in the studio. Do you want to say hello?
Hello, I'm here with Cliff.
So Alice has just moved up to Norwich, of course, great choice. And so she's actually in the studio where we're broadcasting from. So we're hoping to do our presentations actually using a Shiatsu mat. So that would be really good fun. So hang on for that. So the idea now is we're going to try and get everyone to get each of them to present their just a reflection on the Congress and maybe share a few of the things that they've done. And the first one up is Gabriela. So if Gabriela could be unmuted, Shakura, and if we can get her on the webcam, let's just see if we can organize that.
Okay.
Yes, Gabriela.
I can see myself.
Hooray! Great. Can you share your webcam?
Yeah, it's here. You can see.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Can you see it? No, I can see it. Let's.
Wait a minute. What I'll do is let's see. You got it? Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, great. You're on. You're live. They can see you. They can see you, Gabriela. Are you still there? Okay, we're just going to unmute her.
Gabriela's muted herself.
Oh dear, okay. Can you unmute yourself? She's back.
Perfect.
Hooray.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, fine,
I
yes.
unmuted myself, okay?
Well done. We like that in a presenter. Unmuting yourself is ideal.
So
Okay,
you can see me and you can hear me. That's great.
yes, we can. Yes, and we can see the slides as well, can't we? Yeah. Okay, Zahara's
My
nodding.
slide is very synthetic because I had a very, very busy day today. So I just put what was in my heart about the Congress that for me was amazing, inspiring, enriching, and stimulating. So I really enjoyed this Congress, and I've always loved to be in Kintel because Kintel is a magic place, but to be in a big town and beautiful town like Vienna really created such a big resonance in the Shiatsu world, and that's really a very, very important outcome. And also to be part of this great event was for me, as I wrote in my slide, was really inspiring, enriching. I had the possibility to meet colleagues from all over Europe and not only, to discuss with them, to share views about the situation of Shiatsu now and its possible future evolution. And also what I really liked is this feeling of being together. I mean, as Shiatsu practitioners, we are never alone, no matter where we live, which kind of Shiatsu we make, which school, which environment. We are together. This was very, very nice feeling, this feeling of being together, supporting each other in our work, in trying to really make Shiatsu more known, more appreciated, acknowledged as a therapy that can become a complement therapy to the Western medicine therapy. And of course, a big, big thank you to Mike and Philip, to the whole organization team. They really made a great job before, during, and after the Congress, and I'm very grateful because they really made our work much easier. And it was amazing to see this crowd of people, to have 100 people in our workshop. It was really an experience that I really enjoyed, and to see all these people in the streets around the information center with their big bag. And I mean, it was really a very, very nice, joyful, and enriching experience. What I presented at the Congress were two subjects which are very dear to me. One is working with children with cancer. And of course, I cannot tell you everything, but what I would like to share with you is that to work, of course, with these children is not easy. It's very tough. Sometimes it's heartbreaking. But in the end, we get more from them than we give them, because they changed completely our vision of life and death, and especially our scale of values. So we really learn to appreciate what we have, to live moment by moment, and not to complain about silly things. I mean, there you're really in contact with life and death, so everything else becomes less important. And of course, we work with children from 1 month to teenager, even 18 years. So we had to readapt completely our techniques, especially with the little ones. And so it was an adventure. And we are very happy that we managed to be accepted to work in a public hospital, in the pediatric hospital in Rome. And the other subject was fascia. Fascia has become very, very fashionable, which is right, because it's a marvelous work. And just to make it very short, the fascia is only one tissue that covers all the structures of our body down to the cellular level. And what is most important is that fascia restricts, in the first instance, to protect the body. And then once the stress or the trauma is integrated in the system, then fascia releases. Sometimes the integration does not happen, and then fascia does not release and remain restricted, in which case we have pain, inflammation, restriction of movement, misalignment of the body, etc. And what is very important, that to release fascia, we do not lean, we do not apply any pressure. So this enlarges our field of action enormously, because we can work on pain, we can work on inflamed areas, we can work on fragile bones fragility, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, all those instances and situations where Shiatsu cannot be used. So this is great. And the integration of these two disciplines of fascia and Shiatsu is absolutely marvelous, anyway, in my experience. And I think that's all. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from the others.
Yes, thank you very much, Gabriela. Thank you very much for coming all the way from, well, from tuning in all the way from Rome to be with us. That's absolutely fantastic. So next on the list is Nick Pohl. So let's see if we can get him up. We've got his video, great, and we need to just unmute him. Shakura, do you want to do that? Unmute him. Yep, here we go. Yep.
Okay.
Nick, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Okay, great, lovely. I'll just get down to your slides. Nick's got 3 slides, so would you like to just take us through what you presented at the Congress, Nick, and I'll change the slides as we go.
Sure. Very much echoing what Gabriela said about what an amazing and quite historical feeling it was to be at such a huge Congress for Shiatsu. My bit was about how we can integrate language with working with ki, and the title I chose was The Language of Beginner's Mind, because this idea of beginner's mind comes from the quote from Shunryu Suzuki in his classic book Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And I think beginner's mind, the quote is, in the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, and in the expert's mind there are few. And it's not that one is better than the other. It seems to me to parallel very much what Cliff teaches about contraction and expansion. When we're contracted, we're in that expert sense of focusing very powerfully on a particular place. Then when we open up, we're back in the beginner's mind of many possibilities. And so when it comes to applying that kind of mind to the kind of language that we can use with our clients, language which doesn't go into abstraction or just giving things names, but brings us to the sense of the here and the now, as Gabriela was saying, we need to listen, as Suzuki says. When you listen to someone, forget what you have in your mind and just listen. If your mind is empty, it is ready for anything and everything. So that's the kind of approach that resonates very much for me in using the kind of language which I teach, which is clean language. And if you can just bring up these 4 simple questions we were using in the workshop. There are more, but these when you use these kind of questions, it's like a meditative exercise. When these are the only questions you can ask your client, you begin to notice how many other things are going on in your head, how many other questions you want to ask, how many good ideas you have, how many judgments or presuppositions you may be bringing to this encounter with your client. So just using these very simple questions. If somebody says that they have some anxiety, you just ask, instead of thinking you know what anxiety means for them, you just stay curious, you stay in your beginner's mind, and you just ask, and what kind of anxiety is that? And is there anything else about anxiety? And where is anxiety? And then they can maybe locate it somewhere in their head, in their body. And then that last question, very useful question, when when you have this anxiety, what would you like to have happen? Rather than thinking that they're just going to lie down and you're going to fix their anxiety, you give them some sense of power, some control, some ability to begin to explore the very complex range of somatic, emotional, mental, and maybe spiritual things that are going on all around that one word, anxiety. So that's what I was presenting. I had a lot of fun doing it, and yeah, I'd just like to say thank you very much again to Mike and all the team in Vienna. It was an amazing event. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Nick. That's brilliant. And just in case you didn't know, Nick Pohl's just published an amazing book, a great book, Words That Touch, which is a very practical guide to using clean language in Shiatsu bodywork, and we'll be sending you links to all the presenters' work after the webinar. So great. So that's perfect. Thank you very much, Nick. Yep, we'll have you back later for the general discussion. So now it's Zita. So Shakura, can you maybe get Zita up on the webcam and unmute her? And there she is. Hooray! There she is. And is she unmuted?
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, hi.
So I just have an empty mind. So I listen to Nick, and I don't know what to say anymore, Nick.
Oh, well, let me say something. Well, I could always say, well, what is that not being able to know what to say like? But we don't want to get into that clean questions right now because Nick's done that. Look what I found. I found a lovely picture of Zita on the internet with Tet Saito, her teacher. And just in case you didn't know, Zita was thrown in the deep end in the Congress because at the last minute, Tet couldn't come because of health reasons. And she just stepped in and delivered his work with almost no preparation time. Isn't that right? Isn't that right, Zita?
I had really a hard work there. I didn't enjoy so much of Vienna, but I enjoyed very much the Congress and being with all the teachers and the community. And I really would like to thank you, Cliff, for this very nice idea to share together about it and reflect and digest it. So that it's not over and forgotten. It's very nice. Very well done. Thank you. So we had to focus on the meridian diagnosis. That's what Ted chose to communicate. And this is a picture of him lately where he says, where he wrote, all what you do it with your heart and a clear mind, or a clear mind with a heart together. So for him, the communication with the meridian system is very important. As also Masunaga said, the Shiatsu is a therapy because of our diagnosis, because then we know what to treat or focus on. Without the diagnosis, we cannot really have a clear mind or clear treatment or clear communication. So that's really what Ted has to share with us, this clear communication with the meridian system, especially also with the what is this? How exactly? Yes, and his what he then borrowed from Tadashi Irie is this finger test method, because Tadashi Irie, he was so desperate that his students wouldn't find out what and pulse diagnose. So he was really he would like to really get them a tool to find it out in less than 10 years. So he developed the finger test, and that's what we also now use to make a quick diagnosis to find out where is the meridian, where is the position of a meridian, for instance, heart, where is heart vibrating, so we can just test it out, and it's really fun and it helps a lot. So we mainly shared that to the audience, and in the first workshop, in the I mean, I had an open practice, which I really liked to share how I work. But then on Friday, Pietro would work, and he also could just draw what is a meridian exactly, how is this movement, what is a meridian, and what is the actual width of the meridian. So he's drawing this, and then we introduced these people to the finger test, and they really could experience it. And then the next slide maybe. And then on the other day, on Sunday, it was the last workshop from 3 to 6, so not so many people showed up then, and we had the chance to really work with them with the finger test. We could really coach them, personally supervise them, and at the end, almost everybody could easily finger test the hara, could easily test the hara and find out the most Kiyomo-Jitsu meridian in no time, and they were really happy about that. I don't know if someone from the audience was there, but this was really great. And also we introduced them, like what the other thing what Ted really contributes to the Shiatsu world is developing what Masunaga began but couldn't finish. So he developed the relationship between the regular meridian system that we all know from TCM and Masunaga, and also the relationship how they interact with the extra meridian system, which meridian flows into which extra meridian, and also how the regular meridian would diverge into the deep body to the organs, and that's the divergent meridian system, which we really use to help to support and treat the cause of a problem. So this is nowadays very important and very helpful, and it's really great, and that's what we communicated and what we talked about it. So and it was really very nice, very great to have this big audience and power of the people and interest in this really get a clear diagnosis and get an easy way to communicate with the meridian system, which is the middle of the physical body and the subtle body, and then right there, when we can communicate, right there we are there. That's Shiatsu.
Thank you very, very much. That's wonderful. Thank you. And how was it? What was it like to be thrown in just with such short notice? What happened to you when you found out that Ted couldn't make it? What was it like?
Well, it was like, oh, I have no slides to project.
Mm-hmm.
And also like now in these 5 minutes, it was like, what can I teach in 3 hours? It's such a huge field, and what can I really make clear for people that they can take something with them and go home with something they really like. It was just like, how can you share in 3 hours something valuable? This was the challenge for me.
Yeah, and it looks like everyone's having a great time anyway, Zita, so thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to hear more from Zita later on when we have the open discussion with all the panelists. We've got one more before Alice and I do our presentation. We've got Nalini there. Let's hope that she can get onto her webcam. Yeah, here she is. And we just need to have her unmuted, which we have now, so that looks good. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, first, I'd like to say thank you to Cliff and his team for organizing this webinar, and also a really huge thank you for Mike and the whole team which organized the Congress, because that was just an amazing job what they did. And yeah, I'm from Germany, and today I'm representing the Shendo Shiatsu Institute West of Germany, and I shared a workshop together with my mother at the Congress. And in Shendo Shiatsu, apart from the basic Shiatsu, I would say we have a big focus on self-experience, especially with the 5 elements and self-realization for our students. And we also use a lot with meditation, so that our students can really go into their center, and from there they can connect with their clients. So this is what we, that's the kind of Shiatsu which we share in our school and what we took to the Congress. And the workshop we shared at the Congress had the title "Love is the Best Therapy," which is based on the scientific discovery that the biggest electromagnetic field in our human body is our heart, not the brain. And also that there is a direct connection from our heart into our hands. So if you like to, you can really connect with this awareness with your clients, and just be aware that when you touch someone, not even only your clients, but also no matter whom you touch, you can also touch them with your heart at the same time. So that was kind of the biggest theoretical thing we taught in our workshop. And on the very practical level, we also do a lot of kind of non-doing. So we shared some techniques to really activate the original energy and the essence of our clients with a lot of rocking, shaking movements. And we also had a touch which I can share just on the webcam with you now, because we had the feedback from our participants that this was something really great for them. They also enjoyed all this rocking because it was just moving, but at the same so much non-doing, and so much happened for them on the inside. And we have this when we have a joint which we touch. We can just, you can imagine that I have a knee or a shoulder in between my hands. So we wrap our hands around it, and then we can just hold it for a moment. And then we shared something which we call the breathing touch. So you can move your hands slightly together and then hold it for a moment, and then you can release this again. And we had some people who shared it at the end of our workshop, because we had lots of practical time with them that they really loved that.
Thank you very much. That's great. I actually managed to pop in and see one of your demonstrations just as I was walking around trying to. It was one of the most difficult thing, I think, was trying to get into other people's workshops, wasn't it? Did you find that?
Yes. Well, for me, it was also some workshops I would have loved to see. For example, like Nick's and also Sita's were just at the same time as mine was. So I was really unhappy about that, and so the more I'm happy now to have this sharing with them, so I get to know at least a little about their workshops.
Yeah, that's right. Well, just for those of you who weren't at the Congress, there are about 7 workshops all going on at once, and most of us did several workshops. So quite often, as Nalini says, we couldn't get to each other's workshops. So, you know, that was just one of the things that happened. So. Okay, great. So thank you very much. And if you'd just like to come back a bit later, we'll have a general discussion after Alice and I have done our presentation. So now what we're going to do is we're going to share the webcam here. And here we are. Hello, and here's Alice. Do you want to come up a little bit more into the light? That's it.
Hello.
And I'm going to stop showing my screen, so then we should just get full-on webinar. Visuals. Okay, so here's Alice Wilden, actually physically in like the same space as me, not in another part of Europe, just completely by luck. She happens to be nearby, so we said, come in. So we thought as we were actually here, and if you just look behind me, this is actually my Shiatsu room where I actually work. And so we thought as we've got each other and we've got a mat, we would do our little 5 minutes with actually like touching each other and doing stuff. So do you want to go first, Alice?
Yeah. I'm happy to do that.
Right,
So
okay, great.
I'll talk as perhaps you lie down.
Yeah,
Would be
yeah.
easiest.
That sounds great.
Yes.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I was presenting, well, I was calling it soul medicine at the Congress, and it's lovely to see everybody. I just want to say how nice it is to reconnect with people. It's great. It was such a good experience. I was presenting soul medicine, which is another name for Seiki work, and really basing certainly my first workshop on resonance and the importance of having resonance, developing resonance as the first thing you do. And I very much connected with what Nick and Nalini actually was saying there, the necessity to put yourself to the side here and come fresh to each treatment. And this is what I was trying to teach. It's not such an easy thing to teach. But nonetheless, I tried to do these things. And so I was doing a few exercises in the first workshop to experience resonance. And the first thing I was showing was, first of all, to decide to be in resonance, because your intention is so important. So this for me is where intention comes in. Deciding to be in resonance gets you there in the end. It's the practice that counts. So this is a discipline, Shiatsu as a way or discipline. You start with intention and resonance comes. Takes practice maybe, but it comes anyway. And and perception comes out of resonance. So where you have resonance, perception, your vision in a way clears. This is not so much your eyes, but a wider sense of perception, as I'm sure many of you will recognise in some form. And actually what I want to share with you is what I thought of when I was going away from, I was on the train from the Congress, and I was going home, and I suddenly thought, because so much been going round and round about diagnosis, and I was really talking about there being no difference between treatment and diagnosis, which is a very fundamental principle of Masunaga's in particular. And it seems that Western medicine and Western way of thinking separates these things out to the detriment of Shiatsu, and it stops being Shiatsu when you do that. And it occurred to me on the train, just one small thing, is that the treatment, you're working to find diagnosis, you're working to understand the person and be with the person, as Nick was saying, with beginner's mind. But as soon as the diagnosis comes to you, you have to throw it away. Because if the moment you become fixed in your idea about the diagnosis, it's valueless to you. So the whole process is one of diagnosing, but it's not to do anything further with diagnosis. So I start the treatment really much like this, although it's always a little different. Seeing what it is that I really do see and feel. And waiting for that information to come to me. So that was the central point of both the workshops I did and all the talking I did. And finding quite a lot of commonality with others. And Nick and I are doing some work together, first of all in Heidelberg, as a postgraduate course in Heidelberg. working together with clean language and Seiki, not so much in the same workshop, but in the same series. These things go very well together. So for me, the information comes from attention, an open mind and beginner's mind. And once the information comes to me, to a point where I, in some ways, can recognize it, then that's enough. That is the essence of the treatment. And I'm waiting here. There is something of some feeling here of movement coming towards, or some kind of resolution. It was just a small sense of resolution. And there a little
Hooray, we're back. Okay. Great. The screen's a bit, it'll just take a little while to get a bit clearer, I think, as this connection gets better. Yeah, there we are. Okay. Great. Okay, so sorry about that. Okay, so I had, in common with everyone, I had an absolutely fantastic time at the European Shiatsu Congress in Vienna. I absolutely loved it. I saw probably 100 people that I know, and I gave 4 workshops. There were 2 workshops repeated. So I did one on contraction and expansion and the holographic energy field, and the other one I did on the vibrational levels and the future of Shiatsu's therapy. So I've only got 5 minutes, so I'm just going to show you the very first exercise from one of those workshops, and you can try it at home. And I'd like to make a few connections with what Zita said. Zita said about the meridian system being halfway between the material body and the energetic body, something like that, she said. Halfway, the subtle body. The subtle body, that's right, yeah. Okay, and the principle behind contraction expansion comes from Pauline Sasaki's work, because she studied with Matsunaga, she practiced Zen Shiatsu, and then she studied with Kishi, and she wanted to get more into the energetics. But she also wanted to continue working on the body. So one of the main principles that she discovered and taught was the idea of introducing different levels of contraction and expansion in our touch, so that we can go from the physical body into the meridian system, and if necessary further out. Okay, and I'd just like to share a few little things to play around with, so that you, when you're next working on your client, you can try them out and see what you think. Okay, so I'm just going to use Alice as my model here, and I'll just show you how we can adjust and control the amount of connection we have with the meridian system. Okay? So I'll try and make it as obvious as I can on the webcam. So if I just connect with like a regular two-handed connection, which is what you might expect with Zen Shiatsu technique, I can feel a connection between my hands. I'm connecting from the hara. Okay. Now, if I put more contraction in, for example, if I tighten up my shoulders and push in like this, what tends to happen is this connection's lost. Can you feel that?
It's certainly a different feeling. It's a tighter, it's a harder feeling.
So if I contract, let's see if I can actually get them to separate. If I can really contract, I should be able to get them to... It's certainly weaker, isn't it? And then if I relax, you get more of a stronger connection, Okay, so that's one thing you can try at home. One of those, if you ever have one of those days where you lose the feeling of the meridian, you think, where has it gone? The first thing you want to do is make sure that there's not some gross physical contraction in your body that's stopping the connection with the meridian. Okay? So one of the things that can happen when we bring our body weight in is this. Look, we bring our body weight in and we tend to go into contraction to hold our weight. So what Pauline figured out was that if we use the alignment, okay, what we can do is we can introduce expansion into the touch to balance the tendency of contraction in the technique. So instead of doing this, where it gets progressively, more blocked, we can do this. And I'll do it in slow motion, see if you can see this on the webcam. So what I'm doing now is I'm doing it in slow motion. I'm going in, and instead of tightening up, I'm introducing more relaxation in direct proportion to the body weight. So if I get it right, it's a continuous feeling of connection. Did you feel that?
Yeah, definite difference,
Yeah. Okay, so what we can do is we can introduce just the right amount of expansion to balance off the contractive nature of the body weight, and that allows us to maintain our connection with the meridian. Okay, and what we can also do is we can go expand even further by using the peripheral vision and by using our intention, and we can expand our awareness away from the two hands and further into the whole energy field. Okay, and I'll just show you how you do that, how we do that. So first of all, concentrating on the two hands. Now if I release more, open up my peripheral vision, and use my intention to connect with the whole of Alice's energy, we get more of that type of feeling. Do you feel the difference?
Yeah, definitely.
It kind of widens out like this. Yeah. And that was the first exercise we did. And what I'll do is I'll make sure I give you a link at the end of the webinar so you can look at all the slides from the workshops if you want to do that. Okay, great. So let's move on now to the next stage, which is the general discussion. So we're going to invite the panelists to come back with their webcams now so that they can join us, and we can have a an open discussion. Okay, so yeah, so hopefully we'll get all the, gosh, they will come back quickly. Have we got everyone? We have. Yeah, hey, okay, great. Yeah. So I thought it was interesting, even just doing this I thought it was really quite a great thing actually for us all to see even just a tiny snippet of each other's work, for exactly what Nalini and I were saying, in terms of quite often we didn't manage to get to each other's workshops, did we? I mean, I'm lucky because I've worked with Alice and Nick, so I already know their work quite well. But I was tearing around trying to pop my head into different workshops. So has anyone got any general comments about the Congress, and then we'll go over to general questions.
Yeah, you asked me how was it for me when that Ted didn't come?
Yes.
And so I was really sad for him because he couldn't come and share what he really developed for the last 40 years. So it would have been really nice for him. And he had a back has to have a back operation because of the stenosis here, and he postponed it for after the Congress, and he really was suffering the whole time to be able to come to the Congress, not doing this operation, and then and he always said, oh, in November I can do it after the Congress and so on. And then this kidney stone arrived this last week before the Congress, so it knocked him down. So I was really sad for him that he couldn't share all his marvelous work, what he have done, because he's such a humble man, and doesn't show off, and this would have been really nice for him. So
personally, I was really looking forward to meeting him actually, because funnily enough, despite doing loads of congresses, and I've always missed him. Quite often he's been teaching in the same, like he's been teaching in Switzerland the same time, or just before or after me, so I've always missed him, and I was really looking forward to meeting him, so it's a real shame. Yeah. But anyway, it's lucky for him that he had you to step in at the last minute.
Yeah, together with Pietro and Heike.
Yeah, great. So if there's anyone watching, if you've got any questions about any of the work of the presenters, or any of you who were at the Congress, if you'd like to just type in your impressions of the Congress, then we'll share them around, and we'll answer them. So has any of the panelists got any comments about, now having seen all of the presentations, of any connections like the one I made with the where the meridians sit between the physical and the subtle bodies, and how that fits with the contraction and expansion? Gabriela?
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking when Nalini was talking about the touch, that when we work with these children with cancer, we become touch. Touch is the thing, because through touch we really convey the universal energy, the earth energy, universal love, compassion, support. Everything is in the touch. So I really agree that touch is the tool of Shiatsu. And also agree about the energetic biomagnetic fields, because when we touch with our heart, and we touch with our intention, not only with our hands. So, and I think Shiatsu is contact through touch. So. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, Nick.
I mean, I had to do a bit of sort of neurological research for my book, but I hadn't come across that thing, the Nalini, that you said about the heart being directly connected with the hands. Of course, I know it because the meridians do it, but I wasn't so familiar with the neurological connections. But it's just something that we intuitively know, I guess. And how, from my point of view, in terms of what kind of language allows us to connect with that touch, it's very, very significant. I did actually, in my workshop, I found myself saying, even though I hadn't prepared it, that I was talking about the left side of the brain and how that's very much to do with language, the content of language, and how the right side of the brain is much more connected to the body and to our actual somatic experiences and our empathic ability. But as I was asking people to get into a little Shiatsu exercise, I said, your brain is in your hands. And I thought, well, I've never thought of that one before, but it just came out. So I think, Nalini, it's like your heart is in your hands. And that Chinese notion that the heart is half of the brain anyway. So I very much agree with that.
Yeah, that actually in the James Oshman book, in the energy medicine, there's a whole like experiment thing with that. There's some experiments done with measuring the biomagnetic field, and as Nalini quite rightly says, because the electrical field that's created in the heart is the strongest one in the human body, it's the one that contributes most to the biomagnetic field that we send out, that's around us all the time. And that field, with current measuring equipment, can be measured 5 meters away. And if you imagine that we are completely made up of connective tissue, as Gabriela will tell you, that's highly sensitive to magnetic fields. So that we can detect that through our bodies. And also another very interesting experiment was if you get 2 people standing next to them and you wire up the brain of one of them with an ECG, you can actually read the heartbeat of the person's next to them, because the electromagnetic induction is so strong. So that basically means is that the information of Sahara's and Alice's heartbeat is actually happening in my brain. And so that goes a long way to explaining what Nalini was doing in their workshop, because in their workshop they were basically using intention to strengthen that kind of connection. And it's great to know that that the science is there. The science is, you know, they're ready for. You know.
Finally.
James Osterman, yes, exactly, yeah, that's right. And it's gone from one extreme to the other, because it wasn't very long ago when the whole idea of there being fields around us was just considered to be some kind of crazy hippie madness, and now it's just completely orthodox, you know, orthodox science, and we have to really rethink our whole idea of what communication is and what it's like to be in connection with someone else, you know, so.
I can also share something which I didn't mention before, because at the workshop I also shared a 5-minute meditation with our participants, which really helped them to connect from heart to heart with their partners. So in a way you're expanding this electromagnetic field, so you can wrap your client or your partner up in it. And I also do it in my groups. So if I do a workshop or a group or whatever I do, I always connect with each participant and as the whole group field from my heart, so I can really connect with them. And I have experienced that this really changes the workshop, because it goes more smoothly in a way. And I had the feedback from my participants or students or that they could really feel the difference. Like they said, something's different in here. Can you say what you're doing? And yeah, it really, they really receive this heart sharing, I would call it.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
In California, they have an institute, Heart Math.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a kind of some years now they make this research of the heart. Very interesting, very true.
We've got a comment coming in from Mitzi. It's not really a question; it's more a comment on the Congress, and all she was saying was it was just absolutely brilliant. So that was it. So if you were at the Congress, you've got anything that you'd like to? Oh yeah, apparently pure dead brilliant, which is a Glaswegian saying from Glasgow. Yeah, and she said it's wonderful energy in energy in the whole experience. Yeah, so that's it. Yeah. So maybe one of the questions we were thinking of earlier when we were thinking about some of the questions we'd like to ask is we'd like to ask Alice and Nick how you see clean language and Seiki combining, because at first, well, there are some similarities, but I just wondered if you could comment on that.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of an experiment, so we'll find out. But I mean, I think for me, I should talk myself. Part of it is very much enjoying working with Nick, so there's a sort of connection there which I trust in. I like the clean language. I think we came together partly because we've both written books about talking. Nick more with the clean language, as I understand it, with Shiatsu, whereas my book on mind clearing is a talking practice I have, which I don't particularly connect it. I don't formally connect it with my Seiki work, so I don't talk any more than I used to in my Seiki sessions. But it has informed my teaching enormously, and it's informed my the way I understand the work. It's given me a model to work with. So I'm using languages in a slightly different area than Nick. But what we want to offer through René in Heidelberg, really the EC school in Heidelberg. It's a postgraduate course that we're working on, and we want to bring these things together because there is, I think, there's a feeling that they go together, but I think, I'm not quite sure how, but I'm confident that they do, I suppose, put it like that. So the workshops are going to be separate. There is one way in which I know that I could employ, or I do in some ways employ clean language, and what I do in that when you're working with somebody, you're working with what is really here. That's the constant question that you're asking yourself, whether you're making it conscious to yourself or not. And in a way, I can see these clean language questions as entirely applicable to the development of your sensitivity, used internally and in workshop situations to more explicitly to develop your understanding of what's going on. So I'll stop there and let Nick talk.
Oh, well, I think you said it all so well, Alice. I can't think of anything else to say. I guess if someone challenged me about why, and I was expecting a bit more challenge at Vienna, but I didn't get any. Why should we have language in Shiatsu?
I tried.
Oh yeah, that was fun. Me and Alice had the best fight about that actually on the panel discussion. But I would say if it's the left side of the brain that does the content of language and has this managerial kind of mind that we run our everyday lives with, that is kind of how the left side of the brain works. And if it's the right side of the brain that, notice I'm using my right hand to indicate the right side of my brain. Why is that? Because the right hand, the left hand to indicate because that's the one that's connected to the right side of the brain. If it's the right side of the brain that has this much better connection with the body and what we actually feel in the moment, then I would say that our claim as Shiatsu people to work holistically isn't really true unless we are bringing both sides of the brain into the process and helping our clients to integrate this intuitive mind or the in the moment mind of the right brain with the more abstract rational mind of the left brain. And that's when the two sides of the brain are integrated, that's when intuition really flows. It doesn't come from one side or the other. It comes from the integration of them both. So that's how I would, that's the claim that I am making about this way of working. It's that we're helping our clients to live a more holistic life and to bring, develop a more mindful relationship with their own body, their own ki. That's my claim.
Yeah, that's great. So Gabriela, one of the things we were also interested in, how you integrate fascia work with your Shiatsu. Like, how do you sometimes just do fascia sessions and then Shiatsu sessions, or do you sometimes mix it? How do you?
I do my Shiatsu session, and then I introduce fascia release when, where, and if is necessary, which is always. But anyway, because of the life we live, fascia, we have important fascia restrictions in our body, because fascia restricts because of trauma, of stress, of negative experiences, and as I said before, the first reaction of fascia is to restrict, to protect the body. Even if the stress is at the emotional or mental or spiritual level, the restriction will happen in our body. And of course, people have fascia restriction, people have pain, people have sciatica, have inflammation, etc., etc. So I keep the structure of my Shiatsu session, and within this Shiatsu session I introduce fascia release, which is very, very powerful because it's a very deep work. Fascia goes down to the cellular level, so whenever we touch a body, and work with fascia, we really reach deep, deep layers in the body. And through the release of fascia, not only we allow the recovery of good, quality and quantity of movement and function, but also as, I could talk ages, maybe I'm too long, but as in the fascia tissues, also the energy connected with negative experiences is trapped. So when we release fascia, this energy which is connected with these past traumas get released. So this means that we recover the fully vibrational potential of our emotional level or mental level, and also we get rid of old belief systems or belief patterns. So in a way, we recover the full potential of our energy. We are not conditioned by bad experience in the past, by old belief systems. So this is a very, very deep and powerful work.
And do you use that with the children, the cancer children, then, when you're working with them?
Yes, because sometimes they are really in pain. They are really, really in pain. So when we get to their room, they say, don't touch the feet, don't touch it, because nobody can touch them. And then we slowly, slowly go there, and we start, you know, very softly, and they say, wow, nobody could touch them, but through fascia we can. And of course, this release helps blood, lymph, circulation. If there is a rigidity, then it opens it up. So for them, it's really very, very helpful, especially also for the little ones.
Yeah,
Because
and
yes?
I was just saying, Dinah had a comment about your workshop. She said it was beautifully presented, fascinating material, and she said a powerful and touching demonstration session. And for me, especially moving watching Gabriela's hands and seeing them as kind of channeling Pauline's own hands. She said very lovely, and thank you.
All right, that's
Daishan.
By the way, reading out, that's Shakura reading out messages that are coming in. Yeah, that's right, yeah. And that was a message from Dinah, who was one of our colleagues who came on the Congress, not presenting. So she came to your workshop, Gabriela.
Yes,
yeah.
She was very nice.
She said it reminded her of watching Pauline work, you know,
yeah,
seeing
I got a it was very nice. I almost cried, but it was okay. And by the way, Cliff, in your first slide, you have Pauline's hands. And I also use them in my workshop for the children, because I spoke also about quantum shiatsu, and I wanted the hands to be there.
Yes, I know. Yes. Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
And also there was a question. Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. No, Thomas just has a question to Gabriela, and how do you switch from shiatsu to fascia treatment? Do you just do it as you feel it, or do you explain it to your clients first?
I just tell my clients that when I stop, because when you do fascia, you just stay still. That when I stop moving, they should first of all move if they feel like moving, because very often fascia release creates a spontaneous movement in the body, and that they have to feel what's going on in their body. So if I stop doing, then they have to feel themselves and move if they want to move. And there is no interruption. It's very fluid. Sometimes I have one hand on fascia, and then with the other hand I work on the meridian. Sometimes I do my meridian work, and then all of a sudden I stop in one place because I feel there is a contraction, and then I may work with my thumb or with my fingertips. So there is no interruption. It's really one into the other. It's a total integration.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I thought that was interesting about the fact that when you stop, that's when the spontaneous movement starts. Because that reminds me of Pauline's whole thing about how we can adjust the work, and how you can adjust the dominance of the practitioner and the receiver. Yeah. And that kind of reminds me a little bit of Seiki as well, because Seiki does that a lot, doesn't it? It creates a lot of space, and you do often get spontaneous movement, don't you? So there's an interesting parallel there between those two things. Yeah. One of the things I wanted to find out from Ted, and I wonder if Ziti could help me with that, is how you actually do if it's possible to explain it in a few minutes, how you actually use the technique, the diagnostic technique, how it actually works, what you actually do. I've seen the picture on the slide, but I just wondered if you could explain it, how you do it.
You mean the finger test?
Yes, exactly, the finger test, yeah.
Oh, that's very easy. It's like a kinesiological test, like this test or this test, but it's only one hand. So how can I do it for the camera? You wrap your this inside of your index finger.
Yeah.
This side to the other fingers. No, this side.
This side.
Yes, this side. The side to the middle finger, actually.
Yes.
Wrap this to the thumb.
Oh, I see. Oh, the middle finger. Like that. Like
no,
that?
No. The index finger?
Yeah.
Index finger
okay,
has
everyone's doing this at home.
Yeah.
Index finger has two sides. This side to this side and this side.
Okay, so it's this side, yeah, the inside.
The inside, let's say the inside.
Yeah, okay,
and the inside goes now to the thumb.
Like that.
And just rub. Yeah.
Okay.
And find your own way to rub.
Yeah.
Find your own way to rub it. And then you have two sensations. One is smooth and one is sticky.
Sticky?
Yes. If you take, for instance, a couple of cigarettes, or what I have here, a couple of moxa, for instance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then you say, is that good for me, for instance?
I see.
You have a sticky sensation because the resonance is no good.
Oh, I see. Yes.
If you trace a meridian,
yes,
like you say 3 heaters, 3 heaters, and then you go from smooth to sticky, right? And you find the hara zones because they are open to release the chaki and take in the seiki. So you find the most open ones with this.
So wait a minute. So when you're testing the meridians, you have the intention. So like if I did it on my arm, or I do it on Alice, as I happen to have an actual live person next to me. So what I do is I say I want to find out exactly where the large intestine meridian is.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think large intestine.
Yes.
And then I test it like this.
Yes. And then you have you have a sticky sensation.
I do have the sticky sensation. I can feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. Wait a minute. Let me just try another one. Wait a minute. I'll try triple heat. I'll try triple heater now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Okay. So that's when you're using your intention. So how do you use it diagnostically then? How do you use it? Do you just think which is the Kyo meridian and then wait for the sticky feeling? Then?
No. I ask every meridian quickly. I go heart, stomach, 3 heaters, lung, everything, and then yes, and then you have two sticky ones.
2 sticky ones.
Yes.
Okay. and then how do you know which of the 2 sticky ones are the Kyo and the Jitsu? Then do you know that? Do you have to ask?
Index finger, right side.
Yeah.
And then you put it's a North Pole vibration, your index finger. Every index finger is a North Pole. And the Kyo makes a smooth sensation because it likes the finger. And and the Jitsu.
Say it again. Did you get that? Did you get
the Jitsu is a sticky sensation.
Yes. What you put your finger on the area?
On the area, like let's say heart and kidney. You find that heart and kidney, and then you just say heart, and then you just put your finger and on heart and on kidney, and one of them is sticky. And the sticky one is the Jitsu, and the smooth one is the Kyo.
Yeah. Wow. I'll have to try that.
Position. It's really fun. It's a lot of fun and very quick.
Yes, no, it's interesting, yeah. Because, you know, by the time I was studying with Pauline, which was in 1986, she was just doing etheric palpation, and it was a kind of similar thing. So she would just go over. She would just pick the two that she felt the resonance in the hand, you know. It's a similar kind of idea, you know. But that's interesting. So you set it up with your intention. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm really glad I found that out, because I couldn't get to your workshop because it was up against all the other workshops. So I'm glad I managed to do it, even if it was over a webcam, but it certainly works really well. Yeah, great, that's great.
It's like Alice said, you have to be very, very open mind, very empty mind, and you just have one question.
Yes.
What you're going for, and then it's a natural resonance. It's nothing you do or influence. It's a natural resonance from your heart to your heart to your hands. So it's nothing you do. It's just you do only empty mind, your question, and then the resonance happens.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's very similar to the way I work.
Actually.
Yeah. Sorry, Shakura.
Yeah, I was just saying it's one of the questions that came up from from Katrin saying about people keep using the word clean, and what does can one really be clean?
Right. Well, does anyone want to try and answer that?
Well, I can say something about it. The job as for me is to clean myself, clean my perception, to make that contact. So Kishi used to say, if I was effectively clean, he didn't use that word in that way, but I'd be dead. I'd be finished with this life. So that life is cleaning yourself.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, from the way I was taught, I mean, especially when you start working on different vibrational levels and the more subtle the work comes, it relies on you becoming like as clear as you possibly can. And that's the way Pauline always taught. We did lots of work on aligning, and basically, because the thing is, if you get two energy fields in resonance, if you're going to do any kind of diagnosis, in other words, tuning into that person, that goes back to this biomagnetic field thing we were talking about with Nalini as well. That whole process is based on the not always correct assumption that we are actually clearer than our clients. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
Quite often, if we've got more stuff going on in our energy field and we put our hand on the client, then what's going to happen is the energy information is going to go that way, because we're going to be the strongest resonant thing. You know what I mean? So from my point of view, to get the diagnosis or the tuning in as clear as we can, the first thing we do is quieten ourselves down and create a space so that we can sense that person. And it's a process as well, not a state. That's really important, I think. So it's not like we have to be perfect, because we never will be. I mean, it's more a process of a movement towards stillness that we encourage in ourselves that allows that space to occur. That's how I understand it anyway. Anyone else?
Well, I totally agree with you, Cliff. And for me, it's getting rid of any kind of prejudice. So just being open, just being kind of empty in a way to receive information and not put our information on the client. But especially not having any expectation, just being open. Maybe this is the beginner's mind you were talking about, Nick.
Yeah, and that's why I was talking about using those very simple questions as a kind of meditative practice, because if those are the only questions you can ask, then you notice how much else your head wants to ask. You notice this constant flow of thoughts and stuff that's going on in your mind, and just noticing it does what Cliff was saying. It brings you back to that intention to quiet things down in your energy field so that you create more clear space for the other person.
Great. Anyone else like to comment?
I can
yeah, go on
do something.
Yes, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's in a way I shared my technique at our workshop, because I always do this kind of meditation, which is interesting because it also fits perfectly with the Chinese philosophy. Like in Chinese medicine, there is this philosophy that the human being is supposed to be the mediator between the earth and the sky. So I personally like to really tune into this, where I really connect with the earth and with the sky or the universe or whatever fits for me, or you can pick whatever it is for you. And then this helps me to get really into this alignment and into my center, or in a way into my own energy channel, so I'm as clear as possible. And I personally prefer the word clear upon clean, because I feel clear is, well, I just prefer it. I can just say it. Yeah. So, and then from this part, that's where I like to connect with the people. And I always, when I feel something, I always try to communicate it as a possibility. Like, could it be that this is, or how do you feel about that? And I'm just feeling something, and I'm doing a communication, like, how is it for you? And I really try not to say, so I feel it's like this and this and this. So I think that's also, yeah, a way of how to connect and communicate.
Yeah, great. Zita, have you got anything to say, any more to say on it, the subject, or?
I think it's just a matter of focus. If I go to, for instance, the 0 point of the heart, where the point of creation, what Nalini says, where yin and yang meets, then this point of creation is in a way there is happening. I'm focusing in the now, in the right moment. So the past is not important, and what I'm looking for neither. So I can just connect in this very moment. That's the focus. In the best, I mean, we are not perfect. We can't do always like that, but it's kind of a
process.
Yes.
A process rather than a state. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant.
And I would also say that there are some days where you are clearer than on other days. So it's always, you can always try your best, and at some days it just works better than on other days. I think that's also a part of it.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
We are humans.
Yes.
We are humans.
Yes, we are. Yes, yes. Well, we like to think so, anyway. But I think that's interesting. That discussion is so interesting, because that's very strong resonance with the whole vibe of the European Shiatsu Congress, wasn't it? It was a real communication thing where we really did discover that everyone's coming really from the same place in a way, but they've just got different ways of interpreting it depending on their background and the way they've been trained and the language that they use and all that. But and obviously there are different styles and there are different ways of working with things, and some have different emphasis. But there is I think there's a very large amount of shared experience there, right in the middle of it all, that that really came out for me anyway, in the panels and the workshops that I was able to go and sit in on. So that was great. And yes,
I was thinking maybe it was because we were all together with touch that it flowed so well, because one of my biggest anxieties about presenting my workshop was there are like at least 5 different languages being spoken here, and my workshop is about language. So I actually I had my handouts in 5 different languages. I was very proud of that. But I learned at the Congress that, for example, the English word touch means things. You can say, I was very touched by what you said.
Oh, yes.
But the German word berühren has some different resonances. Essentially, it means the same thing, but you can say zwei Herzen berühren sich, 2 hearts touched each other, which kind of, that's what Nalini's been talking about, but you can't quite say that in English with touch. So it's very interesting. If we had been at another kind of congress, say cognitive linguistic congress or something, and all we'd had to communicate was language, we could have got a lot more stuck, I think, than we did, because we were communicating through touch and through the heart and through the energy field, and it just flowed so amazingly well with over 500 people. It was amazing.
Yes, yeah, I totally second that. I think that's absolutely true. Well, look, the time's absolutely flown past. We've only got a few minutes left, and I will be just finishing everything up. But I just also wanted to let you know that we've Nick and Alice got this Heidelberg workshop, but we've also been doing some work together here. We did 3 CPD, interlock CPD days in Norwich last year, and out of that, Nick and Alice came into this very room, and we had a whole morning of videoing each other working, and we put a short clip of the discussion on YouTube already, you can check out. And we've incorporated that into the special edition of the online course that we're launching today and in partnership with the Congress. And I'd just like to say now, I'm going to invite all of the presenters that came on the webinar, to have a free place and join in if you want to. And we'll give you links if you want to join in on that. We've, some very interesting video we shot, including taking clean language a bit deeper into scanning and vibration and meridians and things like that. So anyway, okay, so I'm just going to say a massive thank you to the presenters who have joined us via webcam. Thank you very much, Zita. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nalini. Thank you, Gabriela. And I've got Alice right here. Look,
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you, please.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Yeah, it's been really good fun as well. Yeah. So we're just going to switch the webcams off. I'll go back to the slides and just finish up, and we can all say goodbye. But you can stay on audio if you want. Okay. So we're going to just.
I cannot get. Okay.
Okay. So we've just got 2 minutes left for me to tell you just about the discount, and in partnership with the European Shiatsu Congress, we're actually going to give a huge discount off the special edition of the online course. We'll send you a link with the recording link, which we'll send you later on, and you can go to NewEnergyWork, join our mailing list, and we're going to put a link on there very soon so that you can go through and join the course if you want. You can check out a free trial of it as well. It's a lifetime access video-based course, so there's loads and loads of video material. There's a whole new module featuring Nick and Alice, and once you join up, you've got lifetime access, and if we do any other special editions in the future, you'll just get free access to those. Okay, so that's it now. I'm just going to go right the way back to the beginning to go back to the thing, and I'd just like to say thank you again to everyone who's been involved, and a big thank you to the technical team. Zahra has been monitoring, resetting the webcams, blah, haven't you? Just say hello.
Hello, thank you.
And thank you to Shakura, she's been working away in the background in the
pleasure, thank you.
Okay, and yeah, it's great, and please join us on another webinar soon and check out the online course. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to end the webinar.